Welcome to Wolf Nation. Dave, your host here at the noontime. Wolf Nation or Wolf Report. Wolf Report works, but Wolf Nation works as well. I want to start off with remarks by the president to a reporter. You may have heard this. And these are just, I would say, gold. Let me find the, here we go. Let me find the right one and let you hear this real quick before we kick off the show here at the Wolf Report. And so there you go. A typical day in the life of the president. He gets asked a lot of questions. Sorry. You should never trust your electric bill. That's correct. So let's get rid of that. It was a commercial kind of hiding in the background. We got her. We stopped it. But yeah, it was. I love those, because it's. They just throw those questions out, You say, and then, what do you know? And this is where the senator wanted Marco Rubio to also relay everything that was being said behind the scenes. He said, we can't do that. Nobody would ever talk to us again. No nation would talk to us. So we told you everything, every conversation we're having, because those are high level. And, you're getting a lot of maybes and what ifs, if we do this, if you do that. And they don't want their people hearing that on their side. They do not want that. So anyway, I just found it was kind of comical. Hey, the FBI captured the most wanted fraudster, the fugitive on the most wanted fraudsters list, who allegedly led a $547 million Medicare scheme from the New York Post. I believe that is, yes. From yesterday, a notorious fugitive of the FBI's most wanted fraudsters list was allegedly stealing more than $500 million from Medicare. He was captured after an international manhunt. Khalid Satari, 54, was cuffed in the Middle East on Monday after more than 3 years on the lam for allegedly orchestrating a scheme to defraud Medicare of over $547 million. The U.S. State Department of Justice announced Tuesday. He was indicted in 2019 in the Eastern District of Louisiana for allegedly billing Medicare for expensive unnecessary genetic tests between 2016 and 2019, according to prosecutors. The fraudster conspired with dozens of patient recruiters, telemarketing call centers, and telemedicine companies to craft deceptive marketing campaigns, illegal kickbacks, and bribes to create cancer genetic test samples that were reimbursed for up to $20,000 a pop, authorities allege. He's accused of billing Medicare a whopping total of over and $47 million, and paying millions of dollars in illegal kickbacks and bribes to doctors and patient recruiters. He was sprung free on bond after his indictment and with a condition that he no longer worked in the medical field. But he allegedly continued conspiring with Houston-based laboratories in Texas to submit the phony genetic testing claims to Medicare. Federal arrest warrant was issued in 2022, but the quack failed to appear for a court hearing and allegedly fled the country. He was found to have a fake Mexican passport with a phony name when regional partners busted him on Monday. He was flown to the U.S. and appeared in court in the Eastern District of Virginia on Tuesday. He was hit with a slew of charges, including conspiracy to commit healthcare fraud and wire fraud. Healthcare fraud, conspiracy to defraud the United States and to pay and receive illegal healthcare kickbacks and bribes, and conspiracy to commit money laundering. The arrest of Khalid Ahmed Satari and the return to the U.S. is the third most wanted fraudster captured from the FBI and their partners in just 5 weeks. Continuing the historic run of success for this new initiative, FBI Director Kash Patel said in a statement. So anyway, good job. Good one for the good guys. Way to go. I like that they were able to get him. All right, moving on to some other news. At a family leadership conference that was held recently, speaking before thousands of Christian leaders, Newsmax CEO Christopher Ruddy argued that America is facing a defining moment that will shape its future for decades to come. Ruddy told the conference that efforts to embrace woke culture, as well as growing concentrations of economic power, threaten decency and put the nation at risk. The media executive took strong aim at Vice President J.D. Vance for not more forcefully condemning anti-Semitism on the right while criticizing Israel. Ruddy's address to the influential group came as Iowa prepares for its role in the 2028 election, hosting the first caucus of the Republican primary season. The Family Leadership Summit is hosted by the Family Leader Organization and its CEO, Bob Vander Plates, an Iowa power broker who has played an influential role in picking the state's presidential winners. Opening his remarks by noting America's 250th anniversary celebration, Ruddy argued that the nation's success had rested not on ethnicity or a single religion, but on shared moral principles rooted in the Bible. America is great because America is good, Ruddy said. We're a nation founded on Judeo-Christian principles and biblical truths. I'll say to that, amen. Ruddy also described current international conflicts in Europe and the Middle East as moral struggles rather than merely geopolitical disputes. These are not mere geopolitical clashes. They are contests of good and evil. President Trump has done a very good and strong job of containing these threats, but at any moment our nation could be tested in a much bigger way. So anyway, nice quotes there. He said that we are a center-right nation, but if you only watch big media, you would believe that we're center-left. He argued that Washington has become dominated by crony capitalism and what he described as an emerging oligarchy where a tiny number of billionaires and corporations are controlling vast swaths of our economy and culture. It's funny to hear the left talk about the rich that are doing that when it's those on the left that are doing it, if you catch that. I just threw that in. The 5 largest big tech companies, Rudd noted, have a combined market capitalization that rivals the GDP of China, making them collectively the 3rd richest nation on earth. How about that? Wealth inequality has also hit the U.S. hard, he said, with the top 10% controlling more than 50% of the nation's wealth, while 50% of the country has no wealth at all. I don't know if that's the definition of a third world country, but it's getting close. The left's answer to this is more taxes, more government control, more socialism. My answer is going back to our roots, the free enterprise system, competition, less crony capitalism, and less insider games that make a handful of people and companies super rich. Ruddy cited his own company's growth that began in 1998 with a $25,000 investment and is today a $1 billion company traded on the New York Stock Exchange. No one gave us a government grant or regulation to help us or hurt our competitors, he told the audience, suggesting business success should not come from government favors. He has devoted considerable attention to plans by FCC Chairman Brendan Carr to eliminate the national television ownership cap. According to Ruddy, moving those ownership limits would permit a small number of broadcast companies to acquire most of the nation's local television stations, reducing competition and local editorial diversity. He argued that the ownership caps were originally established during the Reagan administration to prevent the major broadcast networks from controlling all local television news. and noted that Congress later raised the national ownership cap to 39%. Under the FCC's proposed plan, 2 to 3 media conglomerates would eventually own all the major TV licenses in every market in the country, giving them control over local news. That's not a good sign. Ruddy noted that most Americans get their news from local TV stations. He added, Newsmax, he said, opposes eliminating those limits and noted that many conservative organizations, including CPAC, which is the Conservative Political Action Conference, the National Religious Broadcasters, NRB, and the Zionist Organization of America, are all opposed to lifting the ownership restrictions. He warned that local religious broadcasters could become among the first casualties of additional consolidation if ownership limits disappear. The speech also included one of Ruddy's sharpest political critiques directed at Vice President J.D. Vance. By addressing what he described as rising anti-Semitism, Ruddy argued that hostility toward Jews has grown within the segments of both major political parties. While saying anti-Semitism dominates and controls today's Democratic Party, he also warned that it represents a cancer within the Republican Party. Ruddy specifically called on Vance to condemn conservative figures, Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, and Dick Fuentes, over what Ruddy characterized as anti-Semitic rhetoric. The vice president needs to stop coddling them and placating them. He also argued that Vance should criticize Islamic radicals as strongly as he criticizes Israel. Ruddy described Israel as our lone democratic ally in the Middle East, adding, I believe we must stand with Israel against real enemies like Iran and Islamic radicals. And one last thing before we move on, he renewed a call for pro-life position. Ruddy concluded by urging Republicans to return to a stronger national pro-life platform and said the GOP made a mistake by removing from the platform a call for a human life amendment to the Constitution. He argued that the party's historical leadership on protecting human life from Abraham Lincoln through Ronald Reagan had given way to a states' rights approach following the Supreme Court Dobbs decision. Ruddy criticized proposals permitting abortion during the first 12 to 16 weeks of pregnancy, arguing such policies allow over 90% of abortions to remain legal. Quoting the Declaration of Independence's reference to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, he maintained that life comes first and urged Republicans to make protection of unborn life a defining national priority once again. If America remains good, rooted in faith, in family, and in freedom, we will always be a great nation. That was from John Gizzi, way of Newsmax, and it was well written, and I enjoyed that, which is just stating what they said, but still he put that in a bite-sized format so we could see that. So, absolutely. Also, the Trump administration is pausing $1 billion in Medicaid payments to 2 states. Those 2 states will be California and Minnesota. And he says that he's pausing them unless they make some changes because they have identified with advanced analytics. They've identified through financial investigation and artificial intelligence, identified suspicious activity and potential fraud. Quote, every dollar the federal government allows to be lost to fraud, waste, and abuse is a dollar stolen from American patients and the American taxpayer. That's money that should be going to legitimate health care, Kennedy told a press conference in Washington. He added later, if those states want that money, they need to provide documentation that these payments are legitimate. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, a Democrat, told the Epoch Times via email, the Trump administration is cutting more money in health care than they've prosecuted for fraud. The math doesn't add up. They're not punishing fraudsters. They're punishing children, seniors, working families, and people with disabilities. This is about cutting health care for people who don't care about in their campaign of retribution against Minnesota. He said his office has been combating medical fraud, including halting 745 payments since January. I think that's probably just a little bit in the bucket, as we say. And I don't have any proof, but that sounds low. If they stopped just that many, should be a lot more, I would think. California Governor Gavin Newsom said on X that California is being targeted for political reasons. We hate fraud. That's not what this is. We stand really to collaborate with CMS in good faith efforts to combat fraud. So anyway, the continued look for of this fraud is certainly something to be looking at. So Senator Robert F. Kennedy is having some news on that, and he made the other remarks that we mentioned in the morning show from that same speech. So it's important that we find this out. From Redacted, A lot of talk about the flock cameras lately. I want to read you this little sound bite here, just a little one about the. It says there may be a flock camera watching you drive through your own neighborhood, and you may not even know what it looks like. Flock Safety's automated cameras photograph passing vehicles, record their license plates and locations, and place that information to a searchable network used by law enforcement agencies. For disclosure, I haven't looked, but I think from what I've read from someone who's looked these up, uh, I think there's close to 10 in my area, and they gave the locations of them. We need to go look that up and go look at one and let them take our picture. More than 100,000 cameras are now reportedly operating across over 6,000 American communities. This is a mass surveillance hiding in plain sight and a direct threat to the Fourth Amendment. Americans have a right to move through their communities without the government quietly creating a searchable record of where they go. It is concerning. When they arrive and whom they may be visiting, the company says the technology helps police find stolen cars, locate missing people, and catch violent criminals. Critics argue that it creates a nationwide system capable of tracking the movements of millions of people who are not suspected of committing any crime. The debate is no longer simply about whether cameras can help solve crimes. It is about who may search the data, how that information can be used, and whether Americans should have to surrender their privacy to move freely through their own communities. So more on that. We're going to have a conversation about flock in the near future. Waiting for Biscuit Boy to get back, and we're going to be talking about that. So interesting. Let's talk a little bit about sports. I'm going to show another quick little video. There was an umpire who got in the way of one of the infielders. I think he was either second base or shortstop. I think shortstop. And they were very upset with this man because he caused the ball to get through. And Reds pitcher Caleb Ferguson said some things that was very well understood on the camera. I couldn't hear it, but you could definitely read his lips. So let's put this on screen. And 1 second. Let's reset this. He's apologizing, and we want to hear what he has to say. It's probably pretty short.
Yeah, don't feel great about it for sure. Definitely very uncharacteristic for myself. As long as I've been in this game, I don't know if you'll find a clip of me going in a dumpfire like that. So definitely going to have to wear that one on the chest and going to seek Bill out or try to at some point. And definitely make it right with him because very unprofessional on my part. So nothing you can do with it now, but just have to move on. I know Bill's doing his best to not be in the way in that situation, so I've got to be better on my part too.
Was there any kind of interaction yesterday on the field that you couldn't tell completely?
No, just kind of letting the moment there kind of take over instead of staying in control.
It seemed like he could have run you from that, but he seemed like he just sort of just sat there and did not really engage you.
Yeah, like I said, the game speeds up on everybody, umpires included, players, umpires, coaches. Everybody that's on the field level, it can get moving pretty quick. So just got to be better on my part.
And obviously, the frustration of getting the ball to come back or before that, the grand slam, that just wasn't anything you guys probably would love to have back.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it felt like a 1-0 game quickly turned into I don't know what it was when I came out of the game, 7-0 game.
Yeah, they were down by a number of runs at this point, and it did allow another run to score or something like that. It should have been an out, and he turned around, and the camera just caught him. He's mad. He's on the field, but he was hollering his way and called him a fat something. We'll leave it at that. If you've seen the video, you know. If you know, you know. Not uncommon, but he did come out and apologize. I'm sure that he caught a lot of grief for that. But maybe the guy does need to leave a few pounds. He was a little chunky, we'll say, trying to get out of the way. So those guys. I mean, the guy behind the called the balls and strikes. Maybe he don't have to be as agile. We'll just say he was trying. I should have pulled that video up, but he did. He's got the whole arms up. He's trying to get his. I know how it is, big boy trying to get a belly out of the way, and he just blocked him. It's one of those unfortunate things. They were down quite a bit at the time, so frustration took over. Hey, also, there's pretty amazing. Stephen Curry is the first active player to have their own exhibit in the Hall of Fame. How cool is that? The Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame will launch a new exhibit this weekend dedicated to Golden State Warriors star Stephen Curry, representing the first time in the nearly 75-year history that an active player will be honored within the walls of a dedicated exhibit. Quote, being part of the Basketball Hall of Fame in this way is hard to put into words, Curry said in a release Tuesday. When I think about my journey, I think about the people who believed in me, the work that happened when nobody was watching, and the moments that shaped me on and off the court. To have that story told while I'm still playing is something I don't take lightly. The exhibit titled Stephen Curry Beyond the Arc will open to the public in Springfield, Massachusetts on Friday. It will include Olympic and championship artifact, game-worn gear, and archival footage of Curry's journey from an unheralded prospect to a decorated four-time NBA champion. Stephen has not only redefined how the game of basketball is played, but he has also set a blueprint for what it means to be an exemplary role model. Hall of Fame President and CEO John DeLeva says, this is a truly historic moment for us and for basketball fans worldwide. Curry is about to enter his 18th professional season and has stated he wants to play at least two more. He is expected to engage in extension talks with the Warriors once he becomes eligible in late August. Interesting. On to the NFL from the New York Post. Patrick Mahomes, shockingly, is said to be fully cleared 7 months after tearing the ACL. Chiefs fans will likely have to have their two-time MVP quarterback return sooner rather than later. He is expected to be fully cleared this week. Per Sports Illustrated's Albert Breer, Mahomes tore his ACL and LCL in Week 15 and underwent surgery on December 15th. This is pretty extraordinary. Mahomes was a full participant in Chiefs OTAs in May, and both individuals and 707 donning a yellow non-contact jersey. During Phase 3, the team kept him out of the 11-on-11s drills as a precaution. Mahomes also took part in mandatory minicamp, putting him on track to be ready for camp in July and August. So it is amazing what they're doing with some of these things now, and I know some of that maybe the player, everybody doesn't do it exactly the same. I get that, but still truly amazing. You would think he would be out of a year, for sure, at least, and then be, maybe limited. Some good news. We're going to know some good news. We'd like to do that. Off-duty North Texas firefighter saves 3 children trapped under a boat on the 4th of July. For the Dallas Morning News comes the story of a firefighter who went above and beyond the call of duty, even though he was off duty. Out in the family boat on the 4th of July, Jason Horn rescued 3 drowning children trapped under a pontoon boat on Alvarado Lake in Lothian. The paper referenced firefighters' terminology for rescuing people, making a grab before quoting Horn as admitting he had made the grab of his career, and he wasn't even wearing the uniform. Horn recounted the story in an interview. He was on his boat spending time with his 12-year-old daughter on the lake when they saw another boat and a jet ski floating in the distance with the pilot waving them down. Then he realized there was a third boat nearby, one he hadn't seen at first, but which was clearly the wrong side up. Sensing there was the need of a grab at hand, Horn told his daughter to sit tight, then jumped in the water and swam over to the scene. The people were all yelling, "Our babies are under there," Horn recalled. So I went around to the side of the boat, dove underneath the boat. 2 children were trapped underneath, and thankfully their guardians had remembered or insisted that they should wear life jackets. The first grab was a boy, clearly dizzy but breathing. The second was a girl who wasn't. He pulled her up on top of the pontoon, hoisted himself up beside her, and began to perform chest compressions before hearing that there was a third child underneath as well. He dove back into the water without explaining to the Dallas Morning News whether the girl was breathing again, but he couldn't locate a third child. There's only so many places one firefighter can be, but by then some good Samaritans came by and helped find the third, another boy who was also unresponsive. He had a bunch of ropes and stuff around him. We were able to get him up on front of the pontoon boat. I did CPR on that little boy up there on the pontoon boat for a few minutes while we headed back to the boat ramp. By the time they reached the ramp, first responders were waiting on them and rushed all of the 3 children to the hospital, where they were recovered according to a news release by the Alvarado fire chief. The family later reached out personally to their hero personally. The Horn insists he is anything but, and that he was just trying to help those people. You know what? God bless him, and God bless those kids. Things can go bad quickly, and I'm glad to know that he was able to get those. I love good news. You can never get enough of good news. This is Dave for the Wolf Report. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day. We're getting towards the weekend, and we're halfway, and looking forward to weekend with family. Take care. We'll see you tonight as well. Thank you for watching the Wolf Nation Network, now on Roku. Be sure you download the app at roku.com.